Good morning. Good morning. Joey said it had to be spiritual, so I'm going to do something a little bit different. Throughout history, teaching tales, fairy tales, legends, myths have all been used to express wisdom and things, so I'm going to read you a couple stories. First is by Damon Runyon. I'm probably the first person who's ever read Damon Runyon in a spiritual center, but he wrote short stories that were turned into the play Guys and Dolls. He wrote a book called Our Town, and every chapter is about a page and a half long, and they're vignettes about people in his town, and this is my favorite one of them. The Happiness Joneses. The Joneses were a happy family. Everybody talked about how happy they were. As happy as the Joneses was a saying in our town. They were poor in this world's goods, but richer than the Rockefellers in happiness. The Joneses were Stella, Bella, Ella, Nella, Fred, Ted, Ed, Jed, and Papa and Mama Jones. The children were all pretty well grown, and most of them worked, and several lived together in a funny-looking old frame house on Rambold Street, and people used to pass that way just to see the Joneses in their happiness. They were certainly a happy family. In fact, they were known far and wide as the Happiness Joneses. They loved one another dearly. Some of the girls and boys were married and had children. Others were of marriageable age, but these said they would never think of marrying because they did not wish to leave the happy home on Rambold Street. One day, a man by the name of Mr. Morgan, with a taking smile, came along selling tickets on a big sweepstake, and all the Joneses chipped in a few cents apiece and bought a ticket because they liked the way Mr. Morgan talked. Mr. Morgan was a slick fellow. Some of the Joneses chipped in a few cents, more than the others, to make up the full amount of the ticket. It cost $2.60. The ticket won $150,000. That was a lot of money for our town. It was a lot of money for any town. Everybody said it meant the finish of the Happiness Joneses. Everybody said Stella, Bella, Ella, Nella, Fred, Ted, Ed, Jed, and Papa and Mama Jones would soon be quarreling like a lot of cats and dogs, especially when those that contributed the most cents got to figuring out they were entitled to more of the swag. But when the money came in, the Joneses put it all out on investment in lump sum and lived off the income. They did not quarrel at all, but continued as happy as ever, even down to the grandchildren. In fact, they were happier than ever because they now had enough money for all their needs. They did not have to scrimp and save. Everybody in our town was good and hot about this. Everybody said that nobody had a right to all that money and happiness too. Some say they do not believe the Joneses won any money anyway because they are so happy, even as long as this, since they bought the ticket. Everybody in our town really has been sore at the Joneses ever since. The next one is from one of my favorite novels. It's a children's book called Grasshopper on the Road, and it's by Arnold Lobel, who wrote the Frog and Toad series. This is one of the chapters. One morning, Grasshopper found a road. It was long and dusty. It went up hills and down into valleys. "This road looks fine to me," said Grasshopper. "I am on my way." Grasshopper walked quickly along the road. He saw a sign on the side of a tree. The sign said, "Morning is best." He saw a sign on Soon Grasshopper saw another sign. It said, "3 cheers for morning." Grasshopper saw a group of beetles. They were singing and dancing. They were carrying more signs. "Good morning," said Grasshopper. "Yes," said one of the beetles, "it is a good morning. Every morning is a good morning." The beetle carried a sign. It said, "Make mine morning." "This is a meeting of the We Love Morning Club," said the beetle. "Every day we get up to celebrate another bright, fresh morning." "Grasshopper, do you love morning?" asked the beetle. "Oh, yes," said Grasshopper. "Hooray!" shouted the beetles. "Grasshopper loves morning." "I knew it," said the beetle. "I could tell by your kind face. You are a morning lover." The beetles made Grasshopper a wreath of flowers. They gave him a sign that said, "Morning is tops." "Now," they said, "Grasshopper is in our club." "When does the clover sparkle with dew?" asked the beetle. In the morning, cried all the other beetles. When is the sunshine yellow and new? Asked the beetle. In the morning, cried all the other beetles. They turned somersaults and stood on their heels. They danced and sang, M-O-R-N-I-N-G spells morning. I love afternoons too, said Grasshopper. The beetles stopped singing and dancing. What did you say? They asked. I said that I love afternoons, said Grasshopper. All the beetles were quiet. And night is very nice, said Grasshopper. Stupid, said a beetle. He grabbed the wreath of flowers. Dummy, said another beetle. He snatched the sign from Grasshopper. Anyone who loves afternoon and night can never, never be in our club, said a third beetle. Up with morning, shouted all the beetles. They waved their signs and marched away. Grasshopper was alone. He saw the yellow sunshine. He saw the dew sparkling on the clover, and he went on down the road. Thank you.